Oh, welcome to the healing hustle. I came up with that yesterday. I was thinking of, dude, I love podcasting. I've done a lot of it already, but I need more. So I thought, you know what? I got inspired maybe 2 days ago and then forgot about it and then got inspired again yesterday. Um, to start my own personal podcast, not having to deal with money, not having to deal with a business or marketing something or trying to like hide behind some sort of excuse. Um, because I want to put thoughts out there. I want to podcast for me. And the reason being is because even though I have a lot of podcast projects or I've done a lot of podcast projects, I haven't really done something just for me. So I have a habit of waiting for somebody else to give me the green light on some things. Some things I'm like, screw you, I'm going to do it. And for some reason, one of the things that I'm very passionate about and has been a great tool in my life in terms of self-growth, healing, hustling, has been podcasting and creating content. Through podcasting, I've been able to discover my voice. It's giving me a reward and also like give me stakes to put down real steps to getting better at speaking, getting better at communication, organization of my thoughts, listening. I'm still working on that one. I'd say I found my voice and I know how to talk now, but I think I need to learn how to listen too. I won't be practicing that here, so I will try to be cognizant of that and use this time in my personal podcast to expel this extra energy I have to talk about stuff. It's so weird being at this point now saying, I have so much to talk about, or to be like, man, I have a lot to talk about when I've sort of hid behind and maybe gave the excuse that I'm introverted. And I am very introverted, but I do find a lot of release and a catharsis and healing through the power of being able to talk something out, especially problems. So this is what this is. This is my personal attempt to not have any stakes, not have any monetary goals, no goals that are, I'd say, ambitious in terms of what external forces would call successful. The marker of my success for this and the goal that I want with these sessions, I don't want to call it a show because it's not really a show. I'm not here to put on a show. I'm here to go to therapy, to give myself the green light, the ability to outlet all the things that I want to outlet. That way, in the other areas of my life, I can listen more. I can be more compassionate. I can pay attention and not feel that I'm not saying my piece. I've been playing around with this idea that, when I listen back to the content I've created, I have a lot to say, and I always feel like I need to add my 2 cents, you know. And I was analyzing that, and I go, where does that come from? This sort of like fear that I'm not going to be heard. I think it's attributed to just not having a voice when I was young, going through a lot of the relationships, being parental or lovers or friends, and not saying what I really want to say. So I'm always afraid in my marriage that I'm not saying that I'm not going to be able to say what I need to say, because there were so many times that I was quiet. And now that I've discovered my voice and I'm every day I get more confident about using my voice. Sometimes I think in the other pieces of content I've created, like for example, maybe Pass the Aisle or maybe the KLB podcast. Maybe I'm over speaking, and maybe this is all in my head, but I think it's a fair, it's astute, fair assessment of one not being able to listen, and feeling like I always have to say something, you know. And I would like to be more aware, be more, and listen to what others have to say, instead of feeling like, you know, I have to say what I need to say. So that's what this place is going to be. And for whoever's here, I really, it's not that I don't care, but it's not for you. If you're here and you're listening, that's cool. I just have to put it out publicly because that's how I make myself accountable and feel that it's more real this way, as if I'm telling an actual therapist what I'm going through. And as long as I listen and reflect back on it, it's kind of like having your own free therapist. And a lot of times I feel like when people go to therapy, from what I've seen in movies, not that I have any real experience, but from what it looks like, and just from the experience of being able to work through my own problems, it sounds like you know what you need to do. It sounds like you've always had the answers, you know what's wrong. There are just maybe some truths or some things that you don't want to see or reflect upon or address. And something outside, externally from you, helps you to face that fear. Like in therapy, say you have this traumatic incident that happened to you, but for some reason you yourself could not revisit those memories and bring clarity to what happened to you and go through all the things, right? So if you had a basic understanding of how catharsis works and how one would work through trauma, if you have that basic understanding, I feel like you could do it for yourself. And I feel like I have done that for myself many times. It has been successful many times. And then some others I can't. And that's why I'm here. You know, that's why, to me, I like the idea better, and maybe I'm a cheapskate for not paying for a therapist or something, but I feel like I'm more than capable of healing and helping myself in a healthy way. So, yeah, like I feel like I always have the answer. It's just sometimes I forget, or I've buried it so deep, repressed by hurt or damage or my own ego. And when I come on the mic and do this and create content, and I've had the ability to really talk things out, and then I listen back to it. I do listen to all my podcasts because I feel like I'm going to therapy with myself, you know, and it helps me personally. I used to not want to do that because of the way my voice sounded. But now I've fallen in love with the sound of my voice, because I don't know, I feel like, not to be like conceited, and it's so stupid that I even have to say that. I even have to buffer my own self. You know, this is my therapy, but I have fallen in love with the sound of my own voice. And I used to hear other people say that too, who are very like confident speakers and stuff. And I'd be like, what do you mean? Like, I'm not comfortable with that. And the reason why I wasn't comfortable with that at the time is because I didn't love myself. I didn't love who I was. For one thing, I didn't know who I was, so how could you love that, right? So throughout the years, I've been able to get to know myself, find out what my voice is through podcasting, through the tool of podcasting, and now I'm here. So I would love to do these sessions on a regular basis, and it's not like anything's wrong, you know, but I just feel like, I feel like I'm giving a lot of myself to, like the business, podcast, my dog, my husband, my team, things like this. But what sort of creation and content am I doing just for me? I think it's a good balance for me as far as like hustling really hard and all the things that we are hoping to equal more dollars in our life, but to do something and to hustle at something that just gives me fulfillment, that just gives me a sense of safety and therapy and reflection and healing. And with the passing of Kobe lately, and he talked about this sort of Mamba mentality and just an incredible work ethic. I would like to kind of like transfer that same sort of work ethic and determination and hustle in terms of healing. I feel like after the really small amount of research that I've gone into healing relationships and childhood trauma and how that all manifests in one person, to a lot of like habitual roadblocks that you face in life. Like for me, for example, one trauma that I kind of always carrying around, and I don't believe I have worked all of it out fully, and that's why I'm here, plus I'm kind of young still, is the trauma of being in a relationship that was extramarital. I was the side chick, and what that really did to me, and how I ended up in that position, and how I was basically groomed into that position. And I just heard of this term grooming maybe like a couple months ago, and I was like, because I was reading about all of these cases through the Me Too movement and things like this, and I was like, I think I was groomed. I think somebody had been eyeing me and grooming me to be this object of their affection, and I, hook, line, and sinker fell for it, and I thought I was special in that very traumatic relationship, and then from there just learned so many things. And I think from that loss of innocence and loss of trusting somebody, because it was so icky, and now when I reflect back on it, and the fact that I'm still reflecting back on it tells me that maybe perhaps I've forgiven this person, but maybe I have not forgiven myself enough, because there are times when I'm waiting for my husband to like lead the way, or I'm still afraid in some ways to say what I really want to say, or have the courage, or feel afraid of what I think, or things like that. There are little moments in my life, in my marriage, where I'm afraid to just like be confident and stand up and say what I really want to say. I'm just now experiencing being able to say what I really mean, say if it's in disagreement with what he's saying to me, and not to feel so like angsty and anxious about it. Being able to confidently disagree, not take things personally, not resent, not judge. Like, how will I get to this point? I feel like I'm on that track for sure, but it's definitely something that I'm exploring right now, where I will feel like I'm gonna lose my shit, or my defenses are up right now, and it's because I feel damaged in that way from that time. There's something in me that I'm not allowing to heal, and that's why I feel that I can't be as patient as I can be, or as compassionate as I can be. And so it just waves a little red flag in my face, goes, something's here. And it's kind of like when you're rubbing out your muscles and you find a little tight spot, you're like, ooh, what's that? What's that? So this is me just sort of like rolling out the muscles, seeing where that little tightness is, and then when I find that trigger, whenever that is, whenever I find that, whenever I have a breakthrough with that, to just really like lean into it, rub it out there, and just figure it out, and hopefully pull that arrow out for myself. And I talk about this thing a lot, this concept of pulling arrows that I heard from another podcast. And I talk a lot about, Kevin putting arrows in my heart, but there's also my own arrows. My own stories that I've told myself that I'm a certain way, or sort of like negative hurt and damage that I've done to myself, a sort of punishment that I'm doing to myself. So that will be something to explore, but that's why we're here, right? So I think we're on the right track to be able to say everything that I've just told you right now would have been really difficult for me to even talk about it a couple months ago. But progress, not perfection. So my goal will be to kind of like work out all these little kinks and hopefully become very limber. And it won't just be about, the emotional strain of things and talking about childhood trauma. Like, I do encourage everybody to like look into their childhood trauma and see what's going on over there and what's under the hood. And I feel a lot of people would be like, well, it's in the past. Why would I go look in the past? Because, I don't know, in my experience, if I'm running up against a repeat problem, it usually has something to do with something that happened in the past. Yes, it's in the past, but somehow it's manifesting and affecting you and still hurts you right now. So I think it's a big reason why, for example, somebody could believe about themselves like, oh, I was never good at reading, so they never read. Like me, for example. I'm not even going to use Kevin as an example, even though he is like by miracle reading right now. I hated reading. It was always like a drill. It was always like, felt like a flashcard that I could never get right. I hated reading. So it wasn't until like, I think I was already done with college. I was already working, and then I came across books that were more on the self-help nature, or business books, for example. And those were the things that like spoke to me. So a lot of times, when we come against things or belief systems about ourselves, maybe it's because we haven't heard it in the way that speaks to us. Like I like a more direct approach. I like a little bit more vulgar approach in terms of writing style. Like if you ever hear a Gary Vaynerchuk keynote, there's a lot of cussing in it. He's very direct. He's matter of fact. I prefer to listen to a man than a woman, oddly enough. Sometimes, And then sometimes I really prefer to listen to a woman about other things. So it really just depends on who is bringing the message. But I think if you go out and seek those avenues that can tell you the message that you need to hear in the way that you want to hear it, you are taking back control of your own education, your own healing. You're taking back control. And that's what it felt like when I finally realized, oh cool, like it's not that I don't like reading, or it's not that I don't like learning, it's that I don't like learning from you, from your particular style. And there's so many styles in which you could learn. and receive new information. And not to judge others and yourself so harshly when you just haven't found the right way to hear it and receive it, you know. So there are so many styles. That's a really great thing, and it's a great thing for business, innovator, competition. It's so good that so many people can hear and receive things differently. And I feel like everybody has their place to find, as long as they seek it out, you know. I feel like this year is so different than the last, I'd say, 3, that we're kind of riddled with a lot of painful self-growth. I think this will be a lot more fun self-growth, because we finally pulled out the arrows, like I said. There's room. You know, wounds have been given time to heal. We've actually removed the shrapnel, removed the arrows, and removed the things that were causing so much pain, and we addressed the real source and problem of things. There's still some things in there, and sometimes you don't know yet until you come up against some issues, and you're like, oh shit, we missed something. We missed some shrapnel there. All right, like, let's go. But the fact that you've taken the time and the steps to remove something, to take some action, it gives you more fuel and fire and validation that you're on the right track and to keep going, you know. So yeah, I feel like this year is going to be a lot more fun in terms of self-growth, where the other years were just really tough, you know. They were very challenging, and I thought, man, I think I had more of a quitter's mentality, or more of a just really on the edge of crumbling and not making it and quitting. I didn't. I'm really glad that I didn't. But those words, those thoughts did enter my mind a lot in the last couple of years. I was really not happy. You know, there were a lot of times you'd have happy moments, but collectively just wasn't very happy. And that's okay. I want to say that too. Like, it's okay that I wasn't happy. It's okay that everything wasn't all like, everything is awesome. Like, it's okay. You're going to have ups and downs. It's, that is the beauty of life. I think without that contrast, you can't really appreciate the good. You don't understand. You won't understand what's worth fighting for, and you won't understand why you're really here if you don't struggle. I feel like without the struggle, you won't have earned anything, you know. So I've earned it now. I feel like I've earned it to be here now, to still be on the track of self-growth and learning and even failing, but having a little bit more spring in my step, like knowing there's a light at the end of the tunnel, knowing and seeing it always. Before it was like, man, it's black in here. Where is the light? I can't find the light. And then sometimes you find the light. Oh shoot, thank God. So to me, instead of this being like, you know, let's relate it to games. Instead of this feeling like a very helpless Resident Evil game where I only have so many bullets, I can't move the camera, I don't have flexibility, or I don't feel like I have control over my situation. I'm just being taken by the troubles and the contrast of life. Now, I've reached this, I'm playing a new game, actually. I'm not playing Resident Evil anymore. I feel like I'm playing, what's a good one? I think a good example would be like, what's that? Just Cause. Just like jumping out of an airplane, blowing things up, maybe failing sometimes. Everything is a little bit more grander, but it's all fun. It's like sometimes it's really chaotic. Sometimes you learn a really hard lesson, and Sometimes you have just a lot of fun learning that lesson anyway, you know? So that's what it kind of feels like right now, which is cool. That's cool. But I still, even though things feel good, it's not like I didn't have a really big challenge yesterday of trying to be patient, you know, and having forks in the road in my mind, like, I could go this way and get really mad right now. Or I could go this way and just be like, it's a game. You know, so there's always moments like that. But I think being able to take the time and dedicate and put some energy back, some creative energy back into myself, because for me, you know, and this doesn't have to be for everybody, but I do feel that people should always be putting stuff back in their own engines, you know, like whatever it is. Maybe not like slothing around, because that's a different kind of way of putting back into your engine, like recharging your batteries, vegging out. There is that, so yes to that, but also the active, you know, not a passive way of recharging your batteries, where you get inspired, where you're feeling yourself, you know. Oh, I'm feeling myself, like, dude, like, yeah, we fucked up yesterday, but it's okay, like, you know what I mean, like being able to ride with the punches, like a fighter, just like, all right, cool, like we're in it, you know, and having the wherewithal to enjoy that ride too, you know, and putting energy back into your tank in a creative way. I really do believe we're all artists in our own way, because even somebody who, like, because take a look at my example now, like, I don't shoot anymore out in the field. All of the team is shooting today. I'm here at home, but I still feel the need to create. And I've actually recorded this podcast 3 times because the first 2 were not in focus. So, you know, having and taking that time to be creative and kind of flex your muscle there, even if you have like a desk job. Because I basically have a desk job now, and I still need to find ways to be creative, because if I don't, I'm gonna get really irritable. I'm not a nice person, because I need to expel. And I think a lot of people, they do have creative energy within them, whether it's working on something, cleaning something even, you know, like, ooh, it looks just right, you know, polishing something, building something, you know, just whatever it is, that's within your purpose, that kind of like brings you that little bit of joy. This brings me joy, you know, and just to know that I'm putting in the work, into myself, where I'm reflecting just for me, not for a number, not for money, not for business, not for marketing, but for pure self-healing and self-love. Yeah. I'm really glad I took the time to do this, because like I was like, is it worth it? Like, and I had to really discover, like, why do I want to do it? You know, why is it important to me? And I was like, well, because bitch needs to talk sometimes. So sometimes I just need to get on the mic and spout my truth, be as authentic as I can, make sure that I get all of that out. And I probably won't get all of it out in one sitting, but to know that I have this place of sanctuary, that feeling of safety really is powerful. Like, cool, I got my space, you know, I got my corner of the world where I can be me without any limits, total freedom. And I know that for me, and in my why I'm doing it, is to make me better. I want to be a better leader, a better wife, a better teammate, a better daughter, all the things. So that's it. that is the healing hustle. Thank you for being a part of my little therapy session here. No limits here. So whether you're here and you gain something, you learn something, that's cool. I'm all down for it. But yeah, I just love getting on the mic and doing this sort of thing. See ya.